Well, welcome back again to Cassimotive, and in this video what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you four lessons that I took away from Lauren Wesser, a model who essentially lost her legs to a toxic shock syndrome, and I wanted to share this with you in the hopes that it can add some value to you and can help you become a higher, fuller expression of yourself. You will know, if you've been following me for a while, that I have been on this pursuit essentially to try and figure out when your life hasn't gone as you've expected it. Maybe you found yourself in debt. Maybe you've been a criminal and have found yourself in jail. Perhaps you've become a drug addict. You've got into an accident and you've had to lose your legs. You've got into an accident and you become disabled. How does one turn their life around? Is there a bright end or a bright light at the end of that dark moment that you're going through? Because I don't think that any of us, when we're growing up, when we're developing, when we're going through life, when we have a vision of our life, when we have a dream of our life, I would generally say, and perhaps I'm wrong, and I've been known to be wrong before, that I don't think any of us essentially believe that our life is going to turn out in some negative way. We all tend to have a positive view of the future, but sometimes life does hand us negative things, and life does throw us a curveball, and things do happen that we haven't expected, and we can still be good people. We can desire to do the best that we can, but just sometimes life, sometimes there are people who have been great fathers, but suddenly something really bad happens where they lose their job. Then all of a sudden they get into money problems. Their relationship takes a toll. Then all of a sudden they're having the market crashes, and then all of a sudden they lose their home, and then they have to go into a shelter. Then they can't find somewhere because they have to leave. Now all of a sudden they find themselves homeless. To deal with the homeless, they take alcohol and drugs. Now all of a sudden it's like 20 years later and they find themselves as heroin addicts, and it's like, well, that wasn't their intention. They were good men and women, but it's just, unfortunately, life happened. And so what I always wondered was, is it possible to rise from that? Are there some inspirational stories of people who've gone from those kinds of circumstances and have rose? They've turned their lives around. They've become model citizens. They've gone on to live incredible lives. And I found that they were. And I found that there were common denominators amongst these individuals. They did certain things. They thought a certain way. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you 5 lessons that I learned, which I have found amongst all of these individuals to be common denominators that I hope can add some value into your life and can help you become a higher, fuller expression of yourself. So let's go through these 4 lessons, and let me see if I can't serve you. Okay, so the first lesson that I learned from Lauren was this. When the unexpected happens, you have 3 choices. You can either become the fool, victim, or underdog. See, I found that essentially when bad things happen, and sometimes it takes a little while to really accept what has actually happened. Maybe you've been in a car accident and have found yourself in a situation where now all of a sudden you are not free. You've had to, you're paralyzed, you've lost your legs, and you're not free to do whatever you want. Maybe your entire life you've always dreamt of getting to be an international football player, and you've injured yourself, and now you're never going to play in the World Cup. Unexpected. It's a crisis. A crisis is a situation that happens that is outside of your control. Perhaps you've always dreamt of being married, and you've now got married, but all of a sudden you've just found out that your partner is cheated, and now you're forced into a situation where you're going to have to sell the house. You're going to have to essentially take care of the child or give up your child to your other spouse, and you find yourself in a situation which you didn't expect. Maybe for you, you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. You've always wanted to start your business, but in all honesty, your sister has passed away, and now you've had to be the sole caretaker for your sister's child because he died and passed away to cancer. Now all of a sudden, all your dreams, all your ambitions have gone by the wayside. And it's like, okay, well, how do you deal with this? And sometimes it takes a little while to actually cognitively accept that and go through that and say, okay, right, so this is the truth. This is what's happened. This is a reality. And when you get to that, you have 3 choices. And what I have found is you have to make a decision about which one you're going to fit into. I found that some people either fit into what I call the fool. And the fool, essentially what the fool does is the fool Maybe they find themselves as a drug addict. And the fool basically says, well, it's because of the government, it's because of those people, it's because of my solicitor, it's because of interest rates, it's because of the boss. Essentially, they do what all of us do when we feel we don't have control, which is point at everybody else and blame everybody else but ourselves. We look at everybody else and we say, I don't care. Fuck it. If I'm going to be a drug addict anyway, I might as well be a drug addict. It's better than anyway not being a drug addict. If we find ourselves maybe where we've lost our legs, we just go and start drinking. We start doing things that are crazy, that it's not even like us. It doesn't have character. It doesn't have integrity. There is no vision. It's not inspiring. It's not using our life to its best and full extent. And we literally don't care. We don't care. Maybe we find ourselves in a situation where we've literally hundreds of thousands of pounds in debt. And now, well, I don't care. So what? I'm in debt. Well, I don't care. I don't care, Cass. Whatever happens, happens. Maybe we find ourselves on the dole, okay? We've been fired from our jobs or we have been made redundant. Don't care, Cass. I literally don't give a shit. Whatever. And we're just going to stay at home and we're going to stay on the dole. What's the whole point? I don't want to go to work, blah, blah, blah. Now, what ends up happening with this is that when you continue to essentially decline, because in life, everything that is not growing automatically dies. So if you're not disciplined, if you don't have a vision, if you're not progressing, you automatically decline, decay, and start going backwards. And so when we get into this position, things get worse and worse and worse, and we get to the point where we become what I call victims, where actually we get to the point where we know right now this is not working. And we know that there are other possibilities, and we know that we could ultimately change it around. And it is going to be hard, and it is going to be hard, like it's going to be tough, and it's going to take a long time. But we essentially say, fuck it. I'm just going to pretend I don't have power, and I'm going to pretend, everybody else doesn't want to help me. Essentially, even sometimes we give it a go, but we're like, well, Cass, when it fails, we will say things like, well, Cass, I always knew it wasn't going to work out. I always knew it was always going to fail. Well, Cassim, do you know what? Everybody else is a dick. The doctors don't care about me. The solicitor is trying to fuck me over. The police system's deliberately trying to mess me over. I mean, whatever I do, Cass, nothing ever seems to work out. And so we end up like that person, in movies, you get like the person who's been kidnapped and then they're in the back of the car, and we find ourselves in that kind of situation, not realizing that at least try to maybe use the back something to cut the rope so that you can free yourself. Maybe try fighting back so that you may not win, but there's a lot more chance of, if you fight back, of you winning. But people just simply don't fight. They don't even try anymore. And if they do try, they give up after the first go, or they only put maybe 20 or 30% into it. And so a lot of people are in this situation where they're just coasting. Okay, they're not pushing to the full extent of what they're capable of, because they're just like, they're the victim. Everything happens to them, and they don't have control, and they can't do anything about their situation. But the position that I encourage people to do and to get to is what I call the underdog. Let me tell you about the underdog. The underdog is essentially exactly the same as all the other the other two people that I mentioned, which would be the fool and the victim. They have the same circumstances, but this is the difference. The victim says, do you know what? I get it. This happens to people. Sometimes life throws you curveballs. It could happen to anyone. It could happen to my mum. It could happen to my sister. It could happen to the president. It could happen to the nicest people. Sometimes life doesn't go the way that we're expecting it. Sometimes, actually, we're destined for a different path than the one that we thought that we were destined to. And it just is that way. So let me see, what can I do with what I've got? Okay, I understand that now I don't have, I was watching a movie yesterday, which I'm due to do a video on, called Remembering the Titans. And in the movie, you find this young man who finds himself basically in a car accident, and he becomes paralyzed. But then he says something which shocked me. He said, to his so he had his coach, his American football, they have in America, they have American football, and he wanted to become an American player and do amazing things, NFL and all that, and his coach comes along and his coach is like head down and he's like, oh my god, your life is over, what's happened? And he says to his coach, he says, no, not really, because I found out that there are disabled games that we can play. See, same situation, but he's completely now no longer the victim. Yes, of course he's gonna have to start again, and he's gonna have to try everything, and he's gonna go and fail, and it's gonna be hard, and he's gonna be in a wheelchair. But he's gonna try. He's gonna go for it. He's gonna push right to the edges to see what he can do. Right, yeah, of course, you've been divorced now. All right, fair enough. And your life hasn't worked out the way that you have. And you've all of a sudden lost this amazing house and all the things that you thought you have. Okay, cool. Right, well, let's go again now. All right, you're free now. You know the mistakes that you've made in that relationship. You know what hasn't worked. You know about now a little bit more about yourself. All right, well, okay, well, let's use this then as a foundation for a great relationship. Be like Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey was in 3 marriages which ended in divorce, but now his current wife is an amazing human being. He said, had I not gone through those terrible marriages that I went through, and I was a terrible man and I wasn't ready for marriage, I would not have been able to have this amazing woman and this amazing relationship that I do now. I now know what not to do in my marriage because I've learned, I've made all the mistakes. Does that make sense? Right, now you find yourself in a situation where actually you're having to look after a child who isn't your responsibility, who you have all these dreams and these desires and these goals. Now all of a sudden you're having to take care of them. Well, this was not what you dreamt for yourself. All right, okay, cool. Well, why don't we use this then as a model for what can be done? Let's use this as a model to show people what really a human being, what really separates human beings from all the other living organisms. Our ability to adapt, our ability to change. Do you know what? I'm going to show other people that it is possible for all of this to happen to you and you can still achieve your dreams. I'm going to become a trailblazer. I'm going to pioneer. I am going to become I'm going to show this child so much love, so much joy, so much happiness, such a sense of belonging and inclusion and love. This child is gonna be better off than than her mother not passed away. Do you see what I'm saying? Same thing, people, but interpreted very differently depending on whether you're the fool, the victim, or the underdog. So that's the first lesson. The second lesson that I learned from this was this. Shift your goals and your dreams, shift your goals and the path that you're on to align with your new dreams and goals. I'll explain. A lot of us, when we have every single one of us has a blueprint. Tony Robbins calls it a blueprint. We have a map about how we essentially think life should be. You and me both have a map in our head. Most people don't realize this, but we do. You have a map and I have a map of what we think life should be like. You might have a map that, you know what, the way life should be is I should go to school, go to college, go to uni, go traveling for a little while, come back, get a job in a really good company, work my way through the company, eventually become a CEO, go on like 2 holidays a year, have a house that we rent out, and retire at 65, go and play golf, have some children, all of this, That's some people's blueprint. Some people's blueprint is, do you know what? Fuck school. Leave school, go out, start working as soon as I can, make loads of money, have an amazing lifestyle, only work for like 8 months of the year and spend the rest of the months of the year skiing and partying and flying across to Las Vegas and Dubai and all these amazing places. Forget about retirement. I'm never going to retire. I'm just going to party until I'm going to be like Hugh Hefner. I'm going to be like at 90 and still partying. Like, forget that. I'm never going to get married. That's some people's blueprint. We all have different blueprints about how we think life should be. Some people's blueprint is, I need to go to college, to school, I need to go to college, I need to go to university, I need to do a PhD, I need to get a job at the best company, I need to work diligently, I need to work there for a long time, work my way through there, be a good citizen, I need to get a good relationship, a good woman, I need to buy a house, get married, move in, all of this kind of stuff. I need to work with them. I need to, all of this stuff, whatever it may be. But that is a blueprint. Everything is very precise. Everything's organized. It's very sensible. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's just what the person's blueprint is. Okay. Now, here's the issue. When a crisis happens, when the unexpected happens, all of a sudden, your blueprint is thrown out of the window. Because now, the path that you had for how you think life should be can no longer fit your life. If you all your entire life have believed that you're going to become a superstar football player, get to the World Cup, then you're going to use a World Cup to become a commentator, and now you've just lost, you're injured and you can no longer play, all of a sudden your blueprint about your life is just been thrown out. You can now no longer use that blueprint. Let's go deeper. So what this now means is you're going to have to change your blueprint. You're going to have to change the way that your life thinks. And a lot of people, this is a bit that we struggle with. This is a bit that we have a lot of difficulties with, because we're like, well, yeah, but Cass, yeah, but that's not right. Not realizing that we can still end up with the result. It's just the map to getting there is different. Let me go deeper. If me and you wanted to go, let's say we're in England, and me and you wanted to go from the bottom of England to Land's End, and we wanted to go all the way to John O'Groat, all the way to the top of England. That was our goal. Okay, we've never gone there before. Now, as we're going up, we start off and we're going along. All of a sudden, we've just heard that the roads, the motorways to get us to where we're going to drive there, the motorways to get us to where we want to get to, unfortunately, there are loads of roadworks and there's been loads of accidents and they've been shut off. Okay, a lot of people, what would happen is, a lot of people would stop. They'd become depressed. They'll be like, this is shit, this is crap. But the clever person says, aha, right, let's reroute. We can still get to our destination, but we're going to have to reroute how we're going to get there. We might have to jump off at junction 11, get on it later, use the A roads and get on it at junction 20. Do you see what I mean? They just simply reroute to still get to their destination. And I would ask you, whatever it is, wherever it is that you are at in your life right now, you may be in a situation where you found yourself in a situation where your life isn't where you thought it is. Okay. Now, all you have to do is change the map. Change how you're going to get there. Because clearly, the way that you thought you were going to get there isn't working. So change it. Realign it. Don't say, Cassim, it's never going to work out. This is a sign it isn't working. No. That just means stuff has happened. A crisis has happened. Something's happened that you haven't expected. Well, just reroute now. Just change it around and take a different path. And even later, you can still jump on. Right now, you may not be able to play, let's say, football at the highest level that you can, but I'll tell you what, later on, when you've healed, when you've got better, when you've become successful, let's say being a coach or whatever it is, you can later on do a fundraising football match where you can get involved. Does that make sense what I mean? You still get your goal, it's just that you've just taken a slightly different way to get to your objective. Does that make sense what I mean by that? So that's the third lesson that I learned. The second lesson, that I learned. The third lesson that I learned from this is to lead and use your life as an inspiration. I briefly talked about this actually in the first point, but I'll reiterate it. You have a choice in your life when things happen, especially things that you're not expecting. And the things that you have, I guess the two choices that you essentially have is you either become somebody who uses what you've gone through or you bury it. I'll repeat, you either use what you've been through or you bury it. Let me give you an example. So recently I did a video on Melanie Brown. She went through a tragic time in her life. She was in a sexually abusive relationship. She got to the point where she was gonna kill herself. All this stuff happened to her. She wrote a book about it. She said, if I can help even one woman get out of this situation, I've done well. Do you see what I mean? Let's use, for example, Lauren. Lauren used the fact that she used to be a model, that the fact that beauty doesn't have to be necessarily confined to the very narrow parameters of having legs. She used these golden, amazing new legs that you get these days as a way to show women that you can have confidence, that you can still have beauty, that beauty doesn't just simply come from looking like a model or from having all of that, but beauty extends far much more and manifests itself in a far much more broader way than the narrow parameters that our culture and that society has defined it as. And she's used her position and she's used her story as a way to inspire others to dream more, to become more, to do more, to lift themselves up from where they are, to be able to get that self-confidence in themselves, to aspire to what that the fact that they can also rise to those, to get to understand that the fact that they can be knocked down and can still rise up and get up. I remember Les Brown talking about the fact that when he said that, and I'm paraphrasing this, when you fall down, learn to fall on your back, because if you can look up, then you can get up. I repeat, he said, and I'm paraphrasing it, learn to fall on your back, because if you can look up, then you can get up. Use the fact that you've fallen down, the fact that it's been hard, the fact that it's been tough for you, and use it as an inspiration. Use it as a model to show people of what is capable. Well, look at me. I'm the perfect example. I use the fact that I was in debt, that I messed up, the fact that I did well but didn't really have any sense of purpose or meaning or fulfillment in my life, and I use all those really negative and dark moments in my life, and I use them to try and help you. That's the reason why I started Cassimotive. I was like, okay, well, it's been shit and I fucked up loads. Right, all right, well, let's use this then to help other people. Let me show other people what they shouldn't be doing. You see what I mean? I could have just hid it and pretended it never happened, tried to do as much as I can for nobody to know anything about it. I could have done that. There's loads of things about you that you've messed up that nobody knows about you. But those things could literally liberate other people. So that's the third lesson that I wanted to share with you. The fourth and final lesson that I hope serves you and had some value to you is to find people who are much worse off than you. Now, this is what I call a key of success. I'll explain. A key, if you gave me the keys to your house or your flat or wherever you live, the same key that unlocks where you live, right? And you gave it to me and I went to where you live and you gave me permission and everything. Yes, I understand what you say. Yeah, but Cassie, my door's a bit tough and you have to do it in this way. Yeah, whatever. I figured all that out. I think you'll agree with me, I would be able to unlock your house, right? And get inside your house. I think you'll agree with me on this. Here's my point. A key allows anyone, it doesn't matter, man, woman, white, black, Indian, gay, straight, short hair, long hair, a football fan, a rugby fan, it doesn't matter who they are. If they take your key, they'll be able to unlock your house. Here's my point. A key of success is something that if you do, you will achieve certain results. Here's my point. This point that I've just said to you is a key of success. Getting people who are doing much worse off than you and using them as a comparison to actually how bad your life really isn't. Let me explain. A lot of us, what we tend to do is, and I use a phrase which I call the paradox of the anomaly. Essentially, without me getting into really complex details, because this is an entire subject by itself, what you want to try to do is when you get around people who are doing worse than you, it helps you realize that actually what you think is bad, you really haven't had perspective. It isn't really that bad. When you've lost your leg, and then you get around people who've lost their leg, they've lost their arms, they can't move their entire body, it makes you think, holy shit, I should be grateful. And that is one thing that a lot of people lack, gratitude, when crisis happens. When crisis happens, most people lack gratitude. They're not grateful for the fact that they've still got life, the fact that they're still alive, the fact that they can still do something. Most people, they put their heads down and say, I fucked up, that is it, it's over. You know, I've got myself in debt, it's over. I can't pursue my dreams, it's over, right? And I now have kids, I can no longer go ahead and do all the things that I want, it's over. But the people who become successful, the people who we admire, are the people who say, look, I get all of this has happened, I get that I cannot have controlled any of this, but you know what? There are people who are in even worse situations than me. There are people who are in situations where they definitely aren't going to get out of this. When you had a near-death life experience and you, for example, have lost a leg, remember, some people never made it. Some people didn't make it through that car crash before. Yeah, okay, now you've always loved skiing, but you can no longer do it. But there are some people who can't even do any sports. There are some people who have to be fed food. See what I mean? When you use it like that, all of a sudden, you're like, well, actually, I'm not that bad off. You see what I mean? And it's important for us in life. It's actually part of the reason I share with people as to why it is that people think programs like Jeremy Kyle or programs like Love Island are always on, or Big Brother are on TV and are being watched. The reason why is because people use them as a comparison to help make themselves feel better. Because you look at somebody on Jeremy Kyle, and well, now it's cancelled, but when you used to look at someone on Jeremy Kyle, you used to say, whoa, at least I'm not that bad. At least my relationship is not as bad as them. At least my family is not as dysfunctional as them. It makes you feel better about yourself. Does that make sense? So that last lesson that I wanted to share with you is, no matter where you are, find people who are worse off. You've been through a situation where you've been abused as a child. I mean, it's been bad. Sexually abused by people who you trusted, people who you loved. Okay, go and find somebody who's been worse. I know you may think, Cassim, nobody could have got through any worse. I'm telling you there is. I'm telling you, I thought me being in debt, like almost 10 grand, was bad. Until I met people and studied people who were £400,000 in debt. I was like, holy shit. There are some people who've been to uni and they have 40 grand in debt. And I'm like, Cash, what are you talking about? What you think is bad is not bad, man. You see what I mean? So this is what I would share with you. Some people, I was studying a couple where a guy had to take over and look after his sister who had died because of cancer's daughter. And I studied another couple, and like another guy who lost both his nephew and a member, his I think it was sister or brother, in a car accident. So he doesn't even have any family left. None. Zero. Zilch. He's the only person in his family. His parents both had died. So do you see what I mean? Whatever you think is bad, it isn't as bad as somebody else. And the more you can get where people are worse off than you, the more you can be grateful, which means that you will now be more driven and more hungry to be able to go on and use your life and inspire others and use what you've gone through as a beacon to show people what they're capable of doing as well. And that may be unintentional. You may just be doing it for yourself. So what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'm always keen to hear from you guys. So comment below. Maybe one of these lessons has touched you. If you like what I said, go on my YouTube, subscribe to Cassimotive on YouTube. That's where I send most of my videos. And I just want to thank you so much for watching and continue seeking to be your highest, fullest expression of yourself. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.